in turn, I could say another dream of mine would be, oh, I want to be a big time photographer, right? And photograph people in the spaces that I design, and then have those things be in Architectural Digest or Interior Design Magazine. Like that would be like the end all be all. If that happens, I'm good.
That's what I wanted. I wanted that answer.
Yeah.
You want to be a big time photographer shooting an Architectural Digest.
See, but those, I feel like those answers are, I guess for me, I find that those answers are so hard to give because I feel like there's someone else in a position that, you know, may not be where I am. So I feel like, I'm like, is that me being selfish for saying like, oh, this is my dream? Does that make any sense?
It makes sense, but it's not selfish. I look at it like this: without casting a vision, you have no place to go. Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to The Creative Mind. I'm your host, Byron Craig, and today you're in for a really, really special treat. My guest today, she's a photographer. You might have seen some of her work in O Magazine or with the wonderful company Fabletics. Please sponsor us. She's a newly turned videographer, and she's an interior designer. I mean, just look at her wonderful background back there, all the tans and the greens and the beautiful art piece. Only an interior designer could design something so amazing, so wonderful. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you my good friend, Faith Harrison.
Hi, how are you? This is so amazing that you nailed the intro. That was just great. 10 out of 10. But yeah, I'm so happy to be here. My first little podcast.
I'm happy that you're here. I'm happy to be that first podcast, and it's a podcast about creativity.
Yeah.
I mean, what better avenue and better road that we can get down on and talk about the thing that we both do, something super creative.
Exactly. There's lots to talk about, I think. And with the Creative Mind podcast, I think it says it within itself. There's, so much that you can do here. And I'm excited to see that as well and talk about it.
Let's do it. Faith, tell the people, just tell even me, tell us your story. Tell us how you got started being an interior designer, because you're the first interior designer we've had on the podcast. And that's a super creative field because it's a constantly evolving, constantly changing landscape of what's quote in right now. But how did you get started? Tell us your whole journey.
Yeah, for sure. That's a funny one. So I started this whole interior design thing, I can probably say when I was 8 years old. So my dad, he's a handyman, and so he used to fix people's fences and tile and things like that. And he's worked for Home Depot, and so he would my mom would always have us renovate the house. And so he'd be like, okay, I'm gonna go and I'm gonna pull up the tile and I'm gonna pull up the wood flooring. And I'd be like, okay, Dad, I want to help. Right? So me, 8 years old, with my little knee pads and everything, grouting tile and things like that. And my mom loved to decorate. So every holiday, it would be a whole thing. The house would flip upside down. And so I fell in love with it there. And then I decided, okay, well, what do I do with this? Right? And so I kind of wanted to take it a little bit more than the whole interior decorating thing. And so I went to school to get a degree in interior architecture. So yeah, now I'm, ins and outs of that and kind of working in the industry in the commercial world to work with large companies of the sort.
That's cool. I mean, hey, I told you before, I'm hey, let's work together. Whenever I get a big dream house that I want, let's make it happen. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. What does that look like for you?
Oh, see, that's a very political answer. The default answer is, let me go ask my fiance, because,
Great.
that's important. Like
Hmm.
she's, you know, the boss. That's the real political answer. But for me, like, you know, I like I like modern, I like clean aesthetic. Me personally, I mean, we like the same thing, but again, you know, happy wife, happy life. Um, so like, I like clean aesthetics and like
Hmm.
lines and perfect like whole. I
Like
like
symmetry.
yes. I was gonna there
Uh-huh.
was I was gonna say something about like the rule of thirds, but like not
Okay.
really that. But like everything has to have like a sight line. Like I like
Yeah.
the sight lines. So
Hmm.
yeah,
I can see the like photography brain and the design brain kind of like coming together when you said rule of thirds. I said, okay, yeah, I see.
that's just how we move. Yeah, I think my mind is so jam packed with a lot of stuff all the time that
Mhm.
if I don't talk, if I'm talking to somebody and I'm like, oh wait, I'm talking in photography language, like no, they don't get it. I like clean lines, clean aesthetic. So yeah, but
Yeah.
yeah, I like that. Um, I don't know, very minimalistic. That's the move.
That's what's in too, and I think it's something that is so timeless. Like it's never gonna go away. So hey, that's the right place to be.
Minimal. I mean, like
Hmm.
why? Why would you? My dad's house. His house was built in the '60s, but it still has that '60s wood paneling on the wall, yellow
Hmm.
kitchen, old school oven. I'm like, man, you gotta change this. Oh, your puppy's
My
barking.
little puppy. I'm like Charlie, and now he wants to come and say hi.
What kind of dog is Charlie?
Charlie is a cocker spaniel. He looks like the dog from Lady and the Tramp, but he's like completely all chalked out with like a he's got gray on his nose right here. He's so sweet.
Oh, he sounds so pretty.
Yeah, he's tiny with a big boy bark.
I was like, yo, he was out there. He's like, who you talking to? What you doing?
Right. Someone must have walked by the door.
You ain't showing me no attention. Somebody walking by. Let me protect mom.
Right.
I love it. So you said that you ended up being an interior designer. So you're working with like big brands. Would you ever like obviously help individualize people? Like, is that like something that's the ultimate goal? Like, what's the ultimate goal for Faith? Like, what's your life goal? Like mission in life?
Ooh, that is a good one. That's a really good question. I think I don't know if I fully figured out my whole mission and goal in life. I can say that I guess really between 2022 to now, I'd say I've kind of stepped into the realm of like, wow, I have so many different things that I can do that are at my fingertips, right? And so I'm like, okay, well, am I supposed to be doing photography 100%? Am I supposed to be doing, interior design? Am I supposed to be helping people in that sense? And I think that at the end of the day, it's figuring out how I can use my creative mind to allow people to see God through me. And so I think that that is probably what my purpose is. But we're still figuring that part out. I think that it'll come, maybe next year, next week. But yeah, I think it'll come.
I like that. Letting God see, letting people see God through you. That's like super key. Like,
Yeah.
um, I was talking to, gosh, who was I talking to? I was talking to my daughter, my oldest one, earlier today about God's the creative creator. Like, we were
Mm-hmm.
all fashioned and shaped and formed in His image, and like, so when someone says like, "Oh, I'm not creative," um, that's a lie. We're all creative, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
it's it's really fascinating to sit and think about like even Jason Talley said it on our very first episode, like you picked out your clothes today, you're creative. Like
Mm-hmm.
you ate a mayonnaise sandwich, you broke, but you creative. But you broke. And that's
Right.
okay.
You found a way to eat.
You found a way to eat, you right. You eating that
Hmm.
struggle meal. But hey, you ate something and that's key.
Yeah. I Man, I think that like with that, in the world, I think you have people that are like, oh well, I'm left brain oriented or I'm right brain oriented, and I'm like, well, I don't think that you're one or the other. I think we're all both in a sense, and that kind of ties into like what you said. We're all creative in a different way, and it's just a matter of time before we realize it.
For sure. Absolutely. I a whole
Mhm.
hun I was gonna say wholeheartedly. I trip over my words a lot. I realize that like doing a podcast, you literally are like analyzing your words, and I'm like, I shouldn't have said that. Like,
Yeah, your wheels are turning.
my brain moves faster than my mouth does, and I'm like, but also looking at yourself talking, it's like, yeah, because I can see both of us, and I'm like, I'm
Yeah.
talking, but I like see myself talking, and it's like a second behind, and it's really weird.
Yeah. Is it like whenever I guess whenever it's like whenever you do the editing and everything like that, is it still lag? Does it lag or do
No,
you? Yeah. Oh,
I'm
okay, that's
oh
cool.
I make it work. I make it work.
I
It's
like
don't
it.
because I'm super perfectionist. So
Hmm.
like my thing is like it's got to be right and it's got to like look good. I did a podcast a few weeks ago and the video was like lagging really bad, like really bad. And I was like, and I started trying to edit it and I was like, you know what? Nope. Mm-mm. So I like texted him. I was like, bro, we gonna have to do this again. It's just terrible. And that's just the perfectionist in me. He's like, okay. I'm like, sorry, bro.
It is. I mean, it is. It is what it is. But I mean, yeah. Like, let's talk about that. Like the perfectionist mindset.
Yep.
Like in the creative industry. Like I personally feel like that is something that like causes a whole bunch of procrastination for me. And
Yeah.
with procrastination, like you're like, okay, well, I should have did this, but like, it's not perfect, so I don't want to do it anymore. Like, how do you deal with that?
Oh, I don't have a good answer.
Yeah.
So in a episode 3, you'll hear my friend 730 talk about how he went into the Andre 3000 concert and he kind of was asking him a Q&A question about perfectionism, like how do you know when a project is done? How do you know when that moment you're done? Like Jackson Pollock, for instance, how did he know that he was like one paint splatter or two paint splatters away? Like, okay, that one flick of the brush extra, that just completely ruined it. I don't know. I both of his Andre 3000's answer was involve other people. And when
Mm,
other people are involved, they'll work extremely hard to get the project to the finish line completed perfect the way that it should be. But it's only because you involved other people. And
mm,
I found that to be like a really genuine thing because that's one thing that creatives kind of lack. We don't collaborate well because we're like, oh, if we collaborate with X, Y, and Z person, they're gonna take my gig or gonna take my shine. But if we're taking it back to a church perspective, what's meant for you, God's already set aside and destined for you. You're not gonna like you might miss out on it if you wait too long, but if you start doing it, you're not gonna miss out. Or maybe that just wasn't for you to begin with.
yeah. That's, I mean, 100%. I agree with that. I think that it's also like in a sense of perfectionism. It's whenever you know, I feel like you know something is good. Kind of like I said the other day in church, I was like, I know I see it. Like it's an
Mm-hmm.
instant. Like if I take a shot and I'm like, oh, I love it. Like I don't
Yeah.
need to. I know I'm not gonna have to do much to it in the end. But I think that the when you're going through a whole bunch of photos or you're going through whatever type of art that you're going through and you're sitting there and you're making the small little changes and whatnot. I think you get to the, like you said, the perfectionist, the end point, I guess you'd say, when you involve other people. I guess I found that if I'm like, oh, I have a photo that I did and I love it, right, but I'm like, everybody else might hate it, and in turn it's like, wait, well, Faith, why do you care that everybody else may hate it, right?
Right.
Then I share it with someone. They're like, oh, okay, yes, this is good. You should post it,
Yeah.
right? And then I post it, which I mean, in turn, that probably hinders me from, you know, getting to a certain point because I'm like, I don't know if people are gonna like it, but you know,
But the question is, do we make art for each other, or do you make art for like the audience, or do you make art for yourself? Because that's like the real true thing. Like, I make
mm,
art for me. This podcast, I make it, this may sound selfish, I make it for me because I want to hear the journeys of other people so that not
yeah,
only myself, but other people are inspired by it too. So that's like why this happens. But for
yeah,
photography, I started in photography because I wanted to tell someone else's story.
mm-hmm.
Selfishly, I started off shooting UFC fighters. I want to tell and capture a UFC fighter's transformation from first fight from like 12 weeks out all the way up until fight week. And we did that. And that's back when I used to make documentaries.
Mm-hmm.
And we did that. And it was really fun. That time of my life for all those years was super fun working with those guys. And it was amazing. But they came to, as all things do, they come to an end. And that season was just over and done. But
Yeah.
there was perfectionism in it. Like, I thought I've never, this is, okay, let me just, my brain just moves weird. Go off kilter with me, but I never have ever really truly loved any of my own stuff. People tell me all the time, like, oh, this is so great. This is like amazing. I don't like any of this stuff. Not out of perfectionism. It's just I see the flaws of what could have been.
Yeah.
But
And
go ahead.
oh no, yeah, I 110, I agree. I think pretty probably everything that I have put out, I'm like, oh, this is terrible. Or I'll like zoom in and I'm like, oh, there's a scratch or a blemish there. I need to someone else is gonna see that and they're gonna hate it, right? But I think that that's something that we kind of have to switch off in our brains because it's not honestly it's not benefiting us to think that way because at the end of the day, like whether we like it or not, our art may mean something to someone else, so put it out.
Yeah, exactly. I remember I've heard this a lot recently. The Lord, when He created the earth, didn't say that the earth was perfect. He said it was good.
Mm-hmm.
Heaven is perfect, but earth He made, heavens and earth, good. And I'm like, okay, well, if I'm built in the image of my Creator, good should be good. But you know how we get, like, as creatives, we get really tough on ourselves, and it's like, oh, like you were saying, oh, it's got a little blemish here, but like for 99% of people, they're not gonna care. They're
Yeah, they're
just
not.
like, oh my god, that's a dope picture, like that's
Mhm.
amazing. And you're like, thank you, appreciate it.
Yeah.
But you're like, this also sucks, it's
Yeah,
terrible.
which it's I mean I think that that is something that what I actually don't know. Like, how do you get out of that? Right? Is that how to out of that thought process? Is that something that you have to go to God and be like, "Hey, God, like, can you remove the thought of, oh, this isn't good enough, so I'm not gonna post it," or do you just say, "Okay, I'm just gonna post it and just you know, throw your hands up"?
I think you just post it. I mean,
Mm,
the worst that could happen is someone be like, this is hideous. And you're like, okay, cool, I learned my lesson. I'm not gonna post what I believe and deem as subpar now. And it'll just make you, it'll make you more tactical in your posting. But if you
Yeah,
really are just like, you've secured a contract with Fabletics and you're working with a really big top tier company that has major sponsorships of like Kevin Hart, Khloe Kardashian, like these are big people's names at this
yeah,
company. Your average creative has not had that opportunity yet. So
that's true.
whatever strategy you've done and put your work out there, so that someone saw and you secured that bag, it worked for you. And
Hey, just
someone,
do it.
yeah. So the answer is just post. Who
Yeah.
cares? Who cares if it's like real? Excuse me, I talk really salty sometimes. Who cares if it's really shitty? Who
Yeah.
cares? Like, who at the end of the day, who cares? The worst someone is, the worst someone's gonna say is, or you may not get a whole bunch of likes. Like,
Hmm.
but it doesn't mean that you're less talented.
Yeah.
It just means that the right person or the right set of people hasn't put eyes on your work yet.
Yeah.
Just give it time.
Oh, that kind of makes me think about like the algorithm, right?
Mm-hmm.
As creatives and then us posting, like how do you find that like with you and in your podcast with Creative Mind podcast,
Mm-hmm.
how do you find like okay, like with the algorithm, how are you sure that oh my stuff is gonna get out and it's gonna get shown? Because I think the algorithm is a little screwed, but that's just me.
Yeah. To be fair, like in the lead up, in the build up to when this podcast came out, I was all freaked out and worried about it. But
Mm-hmm.
now I'm just like, you know what? I'm gonna post it. I don't understand social media like that. That's not. I got so many other things in my mind. That's not the thing I care about. I
Yeah.
post it. I put the little hashtags, and if that's not right, that's not right. But the right people are gonna see whatever I need them to see. The
Yeah.
people who follow the podcast page, if I post it on my story, the right people are gonna see it, and it's gonna get to the right place. Because again, I was super happy and content about not making another podcast
Mm-hmm.
until my company started and blew up. I was super happy because then I wouldn't have to do any of this and worry about it. I'd have a team to do all of this. But the
Mm-hmm.
Lord pushed me and challenged me and was like, "Hey, you need to, like, I want you to do it now. Talk to people now. Like, start." I'm like, oh,
Okay.
but Lord, I gotta do this and I gotta like spend time editing and like figure
Mm-hmm.
out. And he was just like, "Do it." And I'm like, "Okay, I'll be obedient. I'll do it." It
Yeah.
sucks. Like, I mean, I wrote this on Threads the other day. It sucks. It sucks doing it all alone. No one wants to ever do creative stuff alone. But
Yes.
here we go.
Yeah, I mean, I in a way we all do it alone, or all the creative stuff we all do it
Yeah.
alone, and I think that that is something that I can resonate with. The oh, like, am I supposed to be doing this, God, or am I not? And God will say, "Oh, yep, you this is what." He'll literally move something out of the way. Like if I don't know if I'm supposed to be editing and I'm like, "Okay, like let me go and get some groceries and do something like that." Right? Oh, no gas. Go sit down and edit, right? So
Yeah.
I think that when you get past the it's hard part, you realize like okay, like it's hard, but this is where this could possibly be going. and
Yeah.
and a lot of times when it's hard, you know that God placed it there for you, because with a lot of things, you're if it's God, it's most times it's not going to be easy. So I think that's how I've learned to decipher that.
Yeah. Life is hard. I literally
Hmm.
had this conversation earlier. If life was easy, then everybody would get everything that we want. But I had my friend Jesselyn Wanlim on the podcast, um, and that'll come out next week. But she was talking about how it's been 2 years since she booked an acting role. That's hard. Your
Yeah.
only source of income. It's hard. Like, you're not able to work. No one's booking you. So, like, what do you do? She's a creative. What do you do? Like, I don't know.
Yeah, you got to go and find it somewhere, I guess. And I mean, and it's funny because in that sense, I guess, with acting, photography, all of the things, you get into a point where you're like, okay, I don't have anything that I'm booking, or I don't have anything that I'm currently working on. So you start to question, right? You start to
Mm-hmm.
say, oh, is this what I'm supposed to be doing? Or, okay, well, maybe I'm just not good enough. But then something happens and you're like, oh, someone oh, someone wants to book me, or, I just got a job, and it can be so random. But
Mm-hmm.
in that instance, I feel like that's when you're good. God's got you. Like, it doesn't have to be right when you want it,
Yep.
but it's gonna come. It's just a matter of being patient.
That's it. It's patience. And like, because the world we live in right now is so we're driven by, like you said, that by this algorithm where it's like, I need likes, I need my dopamine. Like, if
Mm-hmm.
I don't get likes, I'm not getting work. And that's completely not true. You're, again, just your page or your eyes or your work has not dawned uh the eyes of the right person. That's it.
Yeah.
But this weird algorithm life that we lead, um like I said earlier, I don't care. Like,
Mm-hmm.
if the podcast has 50 followers or 500,000 followers or even 5 million followers, I'm grateful either way, because I know what the Lord told me to do, and I'm gonna just be obedient and do it. If it takes 5 episodes, great. 50, 500, whatever. Because it's not my creative side of this is not for me. It's for other people. And that's the way I
Yeah.
want to live the remaining part of my life, is I want to do and give back to as many people as I possibly can.
Yeah, and I love that. I can agree. I think that even in the design world of it, I guess you could say, when you were talking about like, oh, like how you would want your dream house and things like that, I think that at the end of the day, all of these things, these entities that we are, a part of in the creative world, I think that, oh my gosh, I just lost my train of thought. I usually
Words
keep,
be.
yeah, I'm like, the words are like in my head. Um, oh my goodness, what? Ask the question again. Was there a question?
I mean, that we not a real question. It was just
It
more of
was,
a comment.
what, where was my comment going?
I don't know.
I don't know. Anyways, so oh,
Moving
okay. So
on.
I guess, yeah. Moving on. Tell me about in the Creative Mind
Yeah.
podcast world, who would be like, if you could get anyone on this podcast, anyone,
Anyone.
anyone, who would it be and why?
Dang. So you interviewing me now? I'm supposed to be
Yeah,
asking you questions.
right. It's a
No, it
conversation.
is. Um, that's a, you know what? That's a really good question. I like, from an overall, like, really large standpoint, I would love to. I've been watching a lot of Denzel Washington interviews lately, um, because of Gladiator 2. They just
Mhm,
seemingly pop up on my YouTube. He is somebody that I'd love to talk to. But for me,
mhm,
we all know, or maybe not we all, but a majority of us know how these major celebrities, these major stars came to be. They have Wikipedia pages, they've done a million interviews, a million press junkets, and they always get asked the same generalized question. And
mhm,
it's always just like wrapped in a different pretty bow. But for me, to be fair, the real reason why I started this was because I wanted to hear, I call them the 9 to 5 creatives, people who have jobs, who are really truly trying to pursue their God given dream of being an artist or a creative or a director or a writer or anything creative, singer, whatever, musician. I wanted to talk to them to just hear their story, because if if I can put out an episode and it reaches, I don't know, 5 people, maybe one of those 5 people happens to have a cousin who's the head of Sony Music BMG, and they're like, hey, I heard this story of this really cool guy who's a drummer, and we want to, I'd love if you would just listen to this and hear his story, hear his heart for music.
mhm.
You never know. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know. Um, Somebody's like, oh, I heard this really dope podcast with this girl. She was talking about being an interior designer and like her faith and like how she like secured this Fabletics deal and all this other stuff. And like, for me, that's who I want to talk to. I have a list of people, like of my friends and people who are not friends, but they're like creators, and it's just because I just find them, maybe that's not who they actually are, but their persona, their internet persona, is really interesting to me.
Mhm.
Um, there's a guy named Ian. His name is like Ian K. Coyoto on Instagram. He's like
Mhm.
he's a chef, but he's also a special education teacher. And to me, I want to know, one, what led you to being a special education teacher, because that in and of itself is a very hard thing, and you don't get to ever just switch your brain off and go, I don't want to deal with this today. So for 200, 300 days out of the year, he's dealing with special education children, their parents, the highs, the lows that come with being a special education teacher, the fits, the tantrums, and all that. And then he gets home, he has a wife, he comes home, and then he just pulls out all his equipment, and then he's like, all right, I've had a really hard day. I'm going to make, I don't know, something amazing. And I'm going to film it. So, you know, like, where does that passion come from? Where'd your passion from food come from? Because you make really dope things. Like,
Yeah.
it's stuff like that, people who, like, you don't know. Because, I mean, would I love to talk to Denzel? Absolutely. Would I
Yeah.
love to talk to, I'd love to talk to Tim Ross. He's, to me, an amazing person. That man is like my mentor without being my mentor, like Loki. But like, I again, like, people have heard his story over again. He has his own podcast. He talks about his own life. Like,
Yeah, so you're like, why, when you can research it and you can look up, oh, how these people are and who they are, you've seen them. You're like, why don't I, interview people who you may not know, right?
yeah,
And have, not to say that those people don't have real lives, but like, someone who, like you said, is working in the 9 to 5, and who, isn't a movie star.
yeah. But also, it has to do with the vulnerability. Like,
Mm-hmm.
one thing I've learned as of late, people just aren't real, true, honest with themselves. Like, in this podcast, like, we talk about the highs, the lows, not working for 2 years. Like, that's not something you would naturally just openly tell somebody. Hey, I haven't really worked at my really professional job for over 2 years. Like, what? You're a really big actress. Why have you not worked? You know?
Mm-hmm.
So, again, like this, I I say, like, we need to embrace the vulnerability, like Tim Ross says, but we also just need to literally just talk, and just even like just talking with Jesselyn. Like, I was just saying things, and she was like processing it, and then she's like, "Oh, I haven't thought about it like that," and we're just
Yeah.
having a conversation like you and I are.
Yeah, I guess, like, in a sense to that, like, tagging on to that with, you kind of brought up um figuring out how people get to, where they are right now, without, on the outside, this is what people see on social media and things of that sort. But whenever you think about, like, okay, well, what's behind the scenes, I guess
Yeah,
you would say, like, what's actually happening. I guess I can attest to that, like, with the in the photography world of it all. Like, you see one thing on the screen, but then, like, behind the scenes, it's like, okay, well, I have to get up at 8 a.m. and I have to go and drive 30 minutes down 35, or actually an hour, at 8 a.m.
mm-hmm.
In the traffic, to go and sit at a job that I, at the time, did not believe was something that was benefiting me, or helping me in a way, right? And so, like, now, okay, obviously no longer at that job anymore, but now I kind of realize, like, I don't think that I was at that job for what I guess I originally went to the job for, right? I went
Mm-hmm.
to the job thinking, oh, like, I'm gonna go and I'm gonna make, this amount of money, and I'm gonna be introduced to all of these different architects and all these different designers. But in turn, it was a completely opposite experience. Yes, I met those people, but I ended up creating these relationships with these people that I didn't expect to, right? Like,
Yeah.
I met a guy, his name was Cameron. He's from Iran. And
Oh,
so and he was this big architect in Iran, and he finally got his citizenship here in the US. And he kind of just told me his story. And so he had said like he was bullied at his other job for being who he was, right?
wow.
And so whenever I left the company, it kind of felt like I left a friend,
Yeah,
right? And so even with the other friends that I've made there, I've brought them to social, right? And
yeah,
they found God in a sense. And I believe that that instance being like, oh well, it's not necessarily what I thought I was going to get out of it. I wasn't that, but I ended up getting these amazing relationships, and now that I'm outside of that, I still have those. So I
yeah,
think it's important to, in the struggle, you would say, or in the waiting period, to kind of step back and look at, okay, well, maybe there's something more to it.
yeah,
And in turn, there was.
yeah. It's relational equity. You're
Mm-hmm.
literally prioritizing the equity of a relationship over just everything else. You're like, okay, this isn't just I'm here at my job. I met such and such big architect. It's like, no, let me love on you as my friend. We've built
Yeah.
this bond. Like, okay, cool. Tell me your story. You're
Mm-hmm.
not. I don't. I'm not hosting a podcast. I just genuinely want to know who you are. Tell me
Yeah.
about you. Like, but we as even human beings, we don't do that very often. We don't say, "Hey, tell me about you." I do it even outside of this podcast. One of my favorite things to do is to go and ask people, "What's your dream?"
Mm-hmm.
Like, money aside, if I was billionaire Byron, because I will be one day, but if I
Right.
was billionaire Byron and you didn't know it, and I asked you what was your dream, what would you do? And it's really interesting to hear what people say, from coffee shops to I just like one person was like, I want to just be an oceanographer. I just want to play in the ocean all day. I just want to study like ocean life. And I'm like, that's dope.
Yeah.
Why are you a server here at a restaurant? And they're like, life. And I'm like, that's cool. Cause I know in my heart, one day I'm going to have the ability to make it happen. I'm just going to like, all right, cool. Let's go do this. Like, here,
Yeah.
call this number. They'll hook you up, pay for your schooling, or I don't know if oceanographers go. I'm assuming they go to school. They just don't let you play in the ocean.
Yeah. Maybe.
I mean, again, I just assume they you, but I don't know. But yeah, that's
Yeah.
but the relationships, even it like perfect, even strangers, you're just like, hey, tell me about you, and that's not something we as human beings do anymore because we're
Yeah.
all hidden behind screens and uh worried about ourselves, not
Mm-hmm.
like worried about each other.
Yeah. I think the reciprocal side of that is when you ask people those questions, they don't really have an answer, because I think when you're sitting in front of a screen all day, right, and you're constantly like receiving, right, you're constantly receiving, I feel like you kind of lose that, like, oh well, like what about me, right? And then someone asks you that question, like if you ask me what's my dream, I'd be like, right, because you're not in the world doing it and figuring it out. You're behind a screen and you're like watching what everyone else is doing, so in turn you're not really figuring out what your dreams and what your desires are.
Some people, like, okay, I'll ask you, Faith, if I had
Mm-hmm.
$1 billion, what's your dream? If you could do anything in life, regardless on if you're qualified or if you have the financial know-how or backing, like, what would you do?
Yeah, I think, whew, that's a good question. I think that if I had $1 billion, I feel like I would already be at a point to where I've already gotten or received everything that I want,
Oh, no,
right?
no.
Because
If I had $1 billion,
oh, you did.
yeah, and I was gonna make your dream come true, what would be your
Oh,
dream?
Oh, I think first I'd have to give back to my family because I feel like they're the reasons why I'm here. So
Yeah,
part of that money would have to go to them because without them and God, I would not be who I am or where I am today. So I'd start there. From there, I think that I would just, try to build some sort of, with the funds, some sort of life that is sustainable. Right? I think that with
sure.
$1 billion, you can really get anything, right? You can go and buy anything that you want. And I think that it's more than that. I think that I would probably maybe invest, maybe do something in the world that helps someone else with
Yeah,
the
makes
money.
sense.
Um, so yeah, that was a very tough question. I need to think on a little more
Like,
too.
do you have a dream? Like, if interior design went away, photography went away, do you have a dream? Like, my dream is the company that God gave me, like that
Hmm.
He gave me the idea for. That's my dream. Like, I want to do that, to live out the
Yeah,
remainder of my days helping people. That's my dream. And obviously raising my kids and making sure they're all
yeah.
good and safe and well and protected. That's my
Mhm.
dream. But like, what's your direct dream?
Yeah, my direct dream, I think, would kind of be that. I think I would dream to have like a big family.
Okay.
I grew up in a big family with my dad having like 10 to 12 siblings and my
Ooh,
mom my mom having 8 siblings. So I
ooh.
think right, it's a lot. I think that my dream would be to have a family, a big family, and to be able to give them all of the nuggets and things like that that I've learned in my life to help
Yeah.
them grow into what they'd want to be. Because I mean, in turn, I could say another dream of mine would be, oh, I want to be a big time photographer, right, and photograph people in the spaces that I design, and then
There
have
we go.
those things be in Architectural Digest or Interior Design Magazine. Like that would be like the end all be all. If that happens, I'm good. I'm gonna go
That's
and
what I
lay in
wanted.
my bed.
See, that's what I wanted. I wanted that answer.
Yeah.
I wanted that answer. You want to be a big time photographer, shooting an architectural digest. Yeah, see?
See, but those, I feel like those answers are, I guess for me, I find that those answers are so hard to give because I feel like there's someone else in a position that, you know, may not be where I am. So I feel like, I'm like, is that me being selfish for saying
Nope.
like, oh, this is my dream? Does that make any sense?
It makes sense, but it's not selfish because I don't know. If you're without have so I look at it like this, without casting a vision, you have
Mm-hmm.
no place to go. Like, so on the horizon, your vision is I want to shoot for Architectural Digest, and you never know who's listening to this or who
Yeah.
may know somebody. Like, okay, be like, oh hey Aunt Bethany, this girl, she was on a podcast that I listened to, and like she works with a major brand already, and like we would love to get her to shoot like I think you would love her work, like something like that, anything. But again, like I would always tell people, just say it. Like the worst someone can do is laugh at your dream, but that's your dream. It's not their dream. You can
Mm-hmm.
laugh at their dream.
Facts.
Like
Yes.
I want to be like someone's like I want to be a nail tech. Great, amazing. That's not for me. That's for you.
Hmm.
Great. That's your dream. That's not my dream. My dream is to be the greatest photographer that ever lived. Will
Yeah.
it happen? I don't know. Maybe.
Hmm.
Who knows? But you, without casting that vision and being able to like look on the horizon and go, okay, how do I get there? Like,
Hmm.
do I leverage my Fabletics contacts and know-how and everything? Do I leverage that to go shoot, I don't know, something at Vogue? And then I like weasel my way into meeting somebody over at Condé Nast, and I'm like, all right, cool. Like, y'all own Architectural Digest. Hey, Condé Nast, like, I'm here. We all talk
Hmm.
about diversity. Like, give a give a black woman from Dallas a shot? Like, come through.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Hey, That I love that perspective. I think I need to have that perspective more. And I guess okay, so on Thursday I went to, was it Thursday? No, Tuesday. I went to go and see Madison Ryan Ward. I'm not
Yep,
sure if you know.
I
Yes, so
know
I
who she
went to
is.
go. Yes, so I first saw her at SG one day, and then I went to see her on Tuesday, and so I was like, she doesn't have any, or at least that I could see, there were no photographers, in inside. Everything was, it was that studio at the factory, so
Yeah,
everything was on the floor. I'm 4'11", I'm tiny, so I couldn't see anything anyways. But like, I'm like, I don't see any photographers, and my close friend Angelica, she's like, well, why don't you just DM her? I'm like, well, what do you
yeah,
mean? She's like, it's literally a conversation, Faith. Like, you never know if someone is going to respond or
yep.
if they're not going to respond. Like, she's like, just do it. Have I done it yet? But will I? I may.
You
But
should.
yeah, I mean, who knows? I think that would be another. In addition to the dream, some type of concert photography, and she would be a great person for me
Yep.
to shoot. That would be awesome.
I'll say two things. First,
Hmm.
Madison Ryan Ward is very sweet. She's very awesome. I too met her at Social Girls one day.
Hmm.
Um, I photographed her at Social Girls one day,
Ooh, that was your
and
picture. That was so good.
oh, thank you. Um, but I put it on my Insta story,
Hmm.
and she sent me a DM from that picture and was like, "Hey, do you have any more?" I was like, "Yeah, I do. I have a ton more." And
Hmm.
so, like, and so even after that, when she announced the tour that she's on now, a random person who saw that photo sent me a DM and was like, "Hey, do you know how I can reach out to her? Because she's coming to, I think she was in Washington.
Hmm.
She's coming to Washington D.C. Uh, I want to shoot her concert." And I was like, "Yeah, I mean, like, I don't know her people like that. I met her for all of 2 minutes,
Yeah.
just to say hi. She's very tall. Like I'm
Hmm.
5'10". She's taller than me. Um,
Yeah.
but like, so I was like, the only thing I can do is I don't got any way to contact this woman. Only thing I can do is send her a DM. We've exchanged DMs about photos before. Maybe she'll see it. Maybe she'll reply. Did that
Yes.
happen? I sent it. I don't know if that lady got to do it, but I sent it, and that was that. And then yeah, in two, so it was Madison. Oh, now I've talked too much and I lost point number two. Number two, I guess just do it. Like, what's the
Yeah.
worst that could happen? Oh, I remember point number two now. Sorry.
Hmm.
Point number two is uh if you're serve I'll tell you this later, but there's a photographer who is from Elevation Church.
Hmm.
Uh Her name is Blue Amber.
Yeah.
Amazing. I don't
She's
know if you've
great.
met. Okay,
I've
so you've
never
met
met
her.
her, but
Okay.
I definitely I've seen her work and it's inspiring, and so I'll try to be like, okay, like how can I create this? Like with the prisms the other day,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like
Yeah.
that was me trying to embrace my inner blue.
Inner Blue. All right,
Yeah.
cool. We'll talk about it after this, but she's an amazing person, and the way that her mind and like her simple approach to creativity is amazing.
Mhm.
Her thing is just do it. What's the worst that could happen? Just do it. Have fun. Try it. Do it.
Okay, yeah. Needs to be my new what is it? What do you call it? My new motto for
Motto,
20
mantra.
mantra. What
Do
just
it.
do it, Faye.
I'm
Just
sorry. I'm pretty
do
sure
it.
that's Nike.
It
Don't sue
is.
us, Nike. Don't sue
Actually,
us,
yeah,
Nike.
don't. I take that back. I can come up with something else. I can use the thesaurus or something. Come up with something else.
Not the thesaurus. Oh, you take. I feel so old. I ain't heard
Ah,
somebody
you
say
don't
I'm gonna
use
break
it?
out. No, I just haven't heard someone say I'm gonna break out a thesaurus. Which,
Oh, maybe because I don't know. I'd be typing on the computer all day, and I'd be trying to figure out ways to like say something nicely in an email, right?
mm,
That I'm like trying to get done, right? So I'll use a
yep.
thesaurus to, you know, figure
There
out the
you
word.
go.
Hmm.
I like it. A thesaurus. I was gonna say what next? You gonna break out the Encyclopedia Britannicas?
See, that one I can't even spell that. I don't even know.
See, I'm just dating myself. I'm just dating myself as an old person. I'm not old, but
Well, I
Dating
think
myself as an older person.
I'm aware of encyclopedia. I didn't know that that was something that you could like physically search. I
Oh
thought it was
yeah,
like you know when you Google someone and like in school you're taught, oh, if it's from encyclopedia it's probably not true. So I'm like,
yeah.
okay, well, this is just a site that people put random things on. I didn't know you could actually
Nah,
search it.
I'm so. I see. I ain't even talking about internet. I'm talking. See, this is how old I am. I'm talking Encyclopedia Britannicas, where it was A through Z, and they were physical books that people would buy,
Oh,
complete collections, A through Z, of encyclopedia knowledge, and it was everything A related, everything B, C, so on related, and people would just like stick them on the shelves of their house, and they're like, when you, this is obviously pre Google, pre internet. They're like, yo,
okay.
you want to know something? Like, go get the Encyclopedia Britannica off the wall. And now you're like
Hmm.
looking up, you're like, okay. Yeah, that was,
Maybe I've seen them and just didn't know what they were.
yeah. My grandparents had a whole bunch of them.
Huh.
I feel old now.
My I'm like, have I I'm really trying to think like have I ever seen one of these before? Like, okay, mind you, my dad is like, oh dad, if you're watching this.
I
My
love you,
dad is like
daddy.
he's in his 60s. Like he's like 60 something. So like I'm like, okay, have I ever seen one in his house? But no,
Probably not.
probably not.
I mean, you would know if you saw it. You would
Okay.
know.
It's like a big like looks like a dictionary.
Yeah, they're like they're thick books, and it's by every letter. So there's 26 books.
Oh, because of the
Yeah. So you, if
Thank
you've
you
seen
guys.
it,
Google.
thank you Lord for the internet. Thank you Chat
Yeah,
GPT. Like
yeah. Chat GBT. That one.
that part. Like we love us. I don't really like. I don't really mess with AI like that. But
I use I use that one. I honestly don't think you if what is it what does it say what is the saying there's a saying where it's like if not if it ain't broke don't fix it. It's like what is it, don't reinvent the wheel, is that right? Because kind of, because if ChatGPT knows how to say it, so I'm gonna just ask ChatGPT. But then it's like, okay, I'm not really using my brain, so Faith, take a step back and actually use your brain. So
that part, we're gonna.
yeah.
I my fear is that we'll all become super reliant on it, and
Mm.
then we just lose the ability to creatively think for ourselves
Oh, let me
because we're
delete it.
having a machine do everything for us.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Now I'm kind of rethinking the app. Maybe I need to delete it. Maybe I need to just.
No, I mean, I
Uh,
find that I understand the usefulness of it. Like
mhm.
when you can't think of something, or you want to do something polite or courteous or like condensed, I get it. Like
Yeah.
it works. But when you're literally asking it every like little thing, like write me an email about telling my parents I can't make it to Christmas dinner. What?
What do you
Like
mean?
like that
Yeah.
like that part. Now you've given up your free creative free thought,
Mm.
uh saying like, Chat GPT, write me a response to my parents and explain to them that I won't be coming to Thanksgiving dinner, or I'm sorry, Christmas dinner, but make it seem as if I'm really remorseful. Like you've literally just given up your whole entire identity, uh, and creative free will to think. You just having somebody else or a machine do it for you. To me that, I don't vibe with it.
I think that the the kids nowadays, oh, that makes me feel old saying that. I'm old. But like I think the kids nowadays are not thinking about it in that way, right? They're thinking about it because you kind of said, they're giving up their creative mind, their creative freedom to
Mhm.
kind of think freely, right? They're not thinking about it that way. They're thinking about it as, okay, like I don't want to think about it and I can't think about it. So let me just put it into ChatGPT and it's gonna give it to me, right?
Yeah.
But I think that the interesting part about it is like how being that it's already here, right? Being that ChatGPT is already here, how do we get our kids to go back to that, or rewire that to say, hey, like, I don't necessarily need this, because it's gonna, I'm not creatively thinking. How do we get them to think freely, right?
Yeah,
Being that it's already here.
that's the $1 million question.
Mm,
That's a $1 trillion question, to be honest. Because the moment somebody figures that out, they're gonna be instant trillionaire. Uh, it's the same like with social media. Like, I don't. I mean, to me, I'm no scientist, but me, the answer is there's no going back. You've released something into the world. You can't
mm,
just like snatch it and take it away.
yeah,
People will cause an uproar. I mean, look what happens when Instagram's down for an hour. Like,
yeah.
something happens and they've lost all their servers. People like lose their minds. They're like, "What? Oh my god, I can't paste memes. Oh my god, I can't
I
do like
can't work.
like I can't like it's like seriously? Like your life is so tied to this one app that you can't for 5 minutes stop and just engage in human conversation with somebody else?
Yeah.
Like, so there's AI is here. There's no going around it. It's here. People are going to start just using it and integrating it in every part of their life, in every place, workplace. It'll start replacing jobs. It'll start replacing people and careers and everything of the sort. We just all have to just learn to just live with it and deal with it. I guess people can proactively just not use it as much. Just be aware and go, I'm not going to use it.
Yeah.
I personally don't really use it that often. Like, literally, if I'm so just so fried
Hmm.
and I just can't think of something, I'll go to the website. I don't have the app. I'll just go to the website and just
Hmm.
ask.
Yeah.
But I have to be so just completely done with, like, mentally done with everything for me to
Hmm.
actually go in and go, yep.
Yeah. But I think that's because we have been around, like, before it was here.
Mm-hmm.
So we know to do that, right? So I think
Yeah.
with the generations, below ours, I think it's important to really not have screen time, I guess you'd say. Like, the saying, like, which I don't know how many kids nowadays know this saying, but like, be home before the street lights come on, right? Like, these kids are not outside. Now, was I
No.
home before the street lights came on? Yeah, I was close, but like, I feel like these these kids don't, like, they don't they don't know that they didn't get to experience that,
Yeah.
and now, like, they think, like, okay, like, it's just my computer. And I think that is such a hindrance, because there, like you said, there's so much more to life outside
life
of it.
life is off a screen, like real life. Real life's off a screen. Like,
Yeah.
my kids don't go outside. They did when they were younger, but like
Hmm.
now they don't. They're just like, eh. But me, I was like, hey, I'm gonna go out, I'm gonna play. I don't got the internet, and if my mom's on the phone or my dad's on the phone, we ain't
Yeah.
using the computer anyway. So, but now that everything is just kind of
Yeah.
available at your fingertips, you're like,
Hmm.
what's the point?
Yeah.
Why? And I mean,
I see that.
and then like you have like the parents who also just like, you see them, like the little 4-year-old or 6-year-old in the store and they're throwing a temper tantrum, so they just like shove their iPad in the kid's face. They're like, here, just leave me alone. I'm like, whoa, let's not.
I think that's the quick. I mean, I'm not a parent, so I don't know, but like, I think that's their quick way of being like, oh, I don't want to deal with this, because then themselves they're like, like, okay, like, this is
Yeah.
going to take too much for me to think about or to do to fix this problem. So
Yep.
in turn, is it like, they're the problem?
No, I
No.
no, I think that, again, I can only speak for myself. Life is so sometimes just so overwhelming
Mm.
that you just don't have the mental capacity to to just deal with it all, especially if you're a single parent. You just don't
Yeah.
have the mental capacity to just stop and go, all right, you let me actually parent you the way that you we're in the middle of Nordstrom's
Hmm.
and you're throwing a temper tantrum. Let me stop and just go, you sit your butt down, shut your face, stop whining. You can't go out with your friend. Too bad, so sad. Like, we don't do that. And all,
Hmm.
even if we did, there's some random Karen running around. She's like, you can't speak to little Jimmy that way. You can't do that. You can't talk to him that way. How dare you? Like, like, that's not a thing. Like, but our
Yeah.
generation, our parents. I told my child this. I told my oldest daughter this yesterday. Like, I could not ask my parents why. Like,
Hmm.
they're like, yo, go wash the dishes. Why? Man, a backhand would have come from the pits of hell. Wham! And
You
I
said
mean,
what? Yeah.
don't you dare, and don't let it be you would be at your grandparent house. Don't you
Uh,
dare like tell them why. Like, go wash
mhm.
some dishes, boy. Why, man?
That's very bold. I these oh man, I cousins, friends, all of the things who I've witnessed that, and I'm just sitting here like eating my bag of chips. Like, you really just said that? Like, I would have been I don't I don't know, 6 feet under. I don't know where I would have been if I
Yeah,
would have said something like that. But like, these kids nowadays, they say anything.
they feel empowered to be able, because again, we have given them screens and they've seen TikTok and Instagram and everything, and you're like, they just feel empowered to ask why. And I mean, asking why is not a bad thing, because if you're, I guess it just depends on where the why is coming from. If why is a genuine curiosity, like, don't stick your finger in an electrical socket. Why? Well, let me explain to you. If you do it, how about you just do it? And I'm
Yeah,
like,
just
no, just tell me. Yeah, just tell me why. Because
yeah,
if you do, then you'll get shocked. Like, I
yeah.
understand that versus, hey, go wash the dishes, and you say why, and it's like, I'm sorry, little nigga, I told you because I said so. That's why. Two different
Yeah.
total whys. Like, I said so.
And exactly. I think that I guess I feel like I experienced both, like, growing up. And I
Yep.
think that I had family members who were, they were very adamant about, asking why, right? Or, there's nothing wrong with asking a question. It's just a matter of your tone, or how are
Mm-hmm.
you delivering the question, or whatever, curiosity or whatever thing that you have. Like, there's nothing wrong with being curious,
Mm-hmm.
right? And in a sense, it didn't really matter what I was asking about, but as long as I brought it to them in a way that was receptive, even if it may have been a question that they're like, I don't know if I should answer this for you right now, but right,
Yeah.
and then they answer it. I think that the kids nowadays, that's what they're missing. They're missing that. Okay, like, let me change my tone of voice. Let
Mm-hmm.
me, I'm actually curious. You don't have, first of all, you don't have to give me this answer,
Right.
right? But like, I want to know it, so let me bring it to you in like a regular human being, like, just
Yeah.
ask you the question.
It's a respect thing.
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
100%.
Plain and
100.
simple. Respect.
It's respect, but yeah, I don't know. I
Children
was
today lack respect.
Yeah,
Let's just
I
be
I
honest.
think they well, they do lack respect, but I think sometimes it comes from, like, if, the person on the other end, or the parent, or
Mm-hmm.
whoever is coming at them in a way that they feel like they almost have to be in fight or flight. They're going to, you know kind of, I guess, lose that type of respect, or come to you in a way that's like,
Sure.
that wouldn't normally be, I guess you would say, like a regular conversation, if they've seen that.
Yeah. I think that I think again, I'm no doctor, I'm no therapist, but I think that parents who are like in their 30s have so far overcorrected for what
Yeah.
their parents did to them. They're doing the complete opposite to their children, and it's making them worse off. It's not that like because they have trauma or issues from getting a spanking, so now no one's spanking. Like,
Yeah.
but the spanking wasn't the issue. It was what you did was the issue. You just have consequences for
Yeah.
what you've done, and now people don't. And again, this is just an overall generalization. People
Hmm.
don't people aren't really like, oh yes, these I must do the consequence of my actions, and it's like, but you do, and
Yeah.
children are like, no, no, I just want a do over. There is no do overs. Like
Right. You have
you
to.
messed up, you have to pay the consequence. Like,
Right.
but whatever.
Yeah.
Uh, before we finish this thing,
Hmm.
I would like to know, and I know somebody out there has been like sitting the whole time, like, "Oh my god, that's great! Yeah, you're talking about Chat GPT. You're talking about like everything. Like,
Huh.
I want to know about. She works with Fabletics. She got a really big contract. Like, how?
Yeah.
How did I? How can I get that? Like, how can I get this lucrativeness? Like, so
Yeah.
like I just wanted like for the people for them to understand like how did that a black woman in Dallas, Texas,
Mm.
how did you secure or even use relational equity to get a contract with a really big corporate entity?
Yeah, so with Fabletics, I guess you could say, on the technical terms, I haven't really signed over anything, right? I haven't signed a contract to, working with them as I do. But I guess it would start out, I started out when I was 16. No, I wasn't 16. I think I was 18, and I actually worked for Fabletics in Plano, Texas, in Legacy
Mm,
West. I was a sales associate, and so I have always, I've been an athlete. I worked out all the things, so I was just obsessed with their clothing. And at the time, I was just now starting to get into photography. And my brother, he owned a gym, and so he was like, "Oh, okay, like I, found this brand, Fabletics, and they were doing the influencer program at the time." And so he was like, "Okay, Faith, like, why don't you just come out and I'm going to work out, like actually do a workout. And then I just want you to photograph me
mm,
doing the workout."
yeah.
Right. And so we had went to like the outside of the old facility, and we took photos, and he was wearing I think it was right when Fabletics Men came out. And
Okay.
so he was wearing the attire, and so I photographed him in it. And randomly, it appeared on the Fabletics website. And my brother's like, "Faye, your photos were on Fabletics." And I'm like, "What? No way, you're joking, you're joking." And so I go, and I see that the photo is actually, it's on there. And so he then got into the influencer program a little bit deeper, and so he continued to work with them and still continues to work with them. And they go, "Well, who's taking those?" And so he told them, he was like, "Oh, it's this girl, by Faith Visuals," like not really saying like, "Oh, this is my sister," you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But like, so he did that. And so they were like, "Okay, well, we're gonna give you this package, and you're gonna get all of these clothes in it, and we need you to take the photos, and they need to look exactly like this." And so we were like, "Okay." So we went, we did it, gave them the photos back, and they began to post them, right? And so that is something that happens every single month for me now. I work with their influencers, take the photos, and kind of just, it's up in the air, right? To kind of see what happens. But now it's come to the point where they're not asking me, "Hey, can you make the photos look this way?" They're like, "Just do what you're doing. You already know what to do. Just keep doing it."
Yeah.
So like, or they'll be like, "Oh, we want a photo to look like this," or like, "You just did this photo, so we want our next whatever to look
Mm.
just like that." And so he sends over the photos, and Fabletics Men, they turn them around, which is awesome. I think right now with Fabletics, really trying to work with them to to see how we can tie in the I guess you would say the gym and sports realm of it all, to where
Yeah.
you're, you know, how like Nike will sponsor like Baylor, or
Hmm.
you know they'll sponsor teams. So
Yeah.
really trying to figure out ways to get them to work with different gyms. So that's kind of like where I'm at with Fabletics right now. We're
Yeah.
kind of trying to see how Fabletics can partner with Steadfast, and see what can happen there.
I like that. I like it. Just make sure you secure the bag from Fabletics and don't let them take your copyright.
Oh, the amount of times that I have heard that, yes, I think it's just hard because you in this industry, you don't, at least I feel like I don't ever want to step on anyone's toes, right? Or I'm like, okay, well, I know that I've been pushing out this content for you. Like, should I ask you? Like, are you gonna pay me for it? Or
Yeah.
like, because you're using my photo almost every, month, right? Like,
Of
should I ask?
course.
Or like, is that just something that if I'm patient, it'll come,
Yeah.
whenever it's supposed to, should God see it fit. So
Yep.
I think it's just a waiting game, but I definitely am blessed to work with them in a sense every single month, and it's getting publicized. So
There you go.
yeah.
Let me put you and everybody on game. Uh he hates when I call him this, but I mean
Yeah.
it. He's my mentor, Eric Williams, the great and powerful Eric Williams out in LA. He taught me a long
Mhm.
time ago. Um the worst that someone can say to you is no and just stop working with you. But you've already built a brand. So for what I would tell you is what he would tell me. Have them like approach them, have
Mhm.
them sign a license agreement because you own the copyright to the photos. So
Yeah.
as long they just need to license the photos from you, and you
Mhm.
set the terms of the license agreement. Hey, every month we've worked together for the last, I don't know, year.
Mhm.
Every month you post my photos. Let's just make a license agreement. The worst that they could say is no. And
Yeah.
then at that point, again, this is where this sounds really mean, but this is where knowledge comes in. Then you go, okay, cool. Well, you've posted my copywritten work for the last year. You've posted 12 photos, 12. You've now violated the copyright because you didn't sign anything. I didn't give you permission to sign or to post my copywritten work without compensation. So by law, copyright law says you owe me $160,000 per image. Where's my money? Oh, you don't want to do that? You want to sign a license agreement? Wonderful. Great. We can continue to work together and it's mutually beneficial. You're compensating me, you're getting my work, and everybody's happy. No one's
Yeah.
being sued. Like that's game. Like
Yeah.
Eric,
I'll
like
have you come and type that up for me.
I'll help you with it. Because again, it's about passing on knowledge. Like
Yeah.
don't Eric again. He's taught me a whole bunch about the game of photography, and like just don't let people because they will post your work and they will make money on the photos because your photos are helping them sell more merchandise.
Mm-hmm.
But you're not seeing a single dollar from that. But they're raking in all you're doing is asking for your little small carve out and they're just licensing the images. That's it. They're just asking for a little small carve out of what they're like one half of a percent that they're going to make. You just want I just want $3,000 a month. That's enough to cover license I'm sorry, camera insurance, my gas, everything that, everything that goes into it, any rental equipment, if I need to pay somebody to help me as like a tech, like a digitech or whatever. This covers all of my expenses, $3,000 a month.
Yeah.
That's nothing. That's $36,000 in a year. For them, that's absolutely nothing. So you doing that and saying like, "Hey, let's like," the worst they could say is no, and
Yeah.
then at that point you're like, "Okay, well, you may have to go find someone else to, to find these photos. And then they may not find anybody as equally, or they may find somebody who's equal or better, whatever. But then they'll do the same thing. And then that person will feel over time like, no, you can't. I've worked for free for long enough, because no one should ever work for free.
Yeah.
Like, you're talented, you're skillful enough to be able to secure a lucrative relationship with them.
Mm-hmm.
You should not be working for free. You're too talented to be working for free. So the worst, again, like I said, the worst they can say is no. And they say no. Great. I know my worth. My worth now is I have emails showing you telling me my worth is like immense to you. Pay me.
Yeah.
Small.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't have to be much. You're not asking for $10,000 a shoot. You're asking for $3,000 a month to cover all of your bills, all of your expenses. And that's that. And again, the worst they can say is no.
Yeah. 100%. Thank you.
Yeah. Literally that, like, even
yeah.
if we weren't, even if this wasn't a podcast, I would tell you the same thing. Like,
Yeah.
that's just now everybody else knows too. Never work for free, people.
Don't
Never.
do it. Learn from me.
Don't do it. But we gonna get Faith right. We gonna get her all set up and squared away. I'm gonna connect her with Eric. We gonna figure it out. Like, we gonna figure it out. We gonna get this thing rolling for her. Tell the people about Steadfast, your brother's gym. If you're in Dallas, come visit it. Tell us about it.
Yeah, Steadfast Fitness and Performance. Oh, I'd love it. Steadfast is, like I said, it's a faith-based gym located in Louisville, Texas. And, there's everything that you can possibly think of that you can get from at a gym, right? There's classes, there's one-on-one training, PT training. And the cool thing about it is it's all age ranges, you would say. Like, there's kids maybe ranging from 5-6 doing like soccer and things like that, and then you've also got like your 65 and 75 year olds in there working out in the classes, and I think that Steadfast has really built that based off of their culture, owners being Jared Harrison and former Cowboys player Isaiah Stanback, so with them, they have an energy and an ability that is like nothing I've ever seen, and so they just have this ability to bring people in and get them interested in their health, and then at the same time create a family environment with it, and also bringing people to God in whichever way that may be, whether that be a conversation or whether that be the prayers that we have at the end of the workout on Saturdays. So, hey, check them out, Steadfast Fitness and Performance. There's boot camps on Saturdays, 9 a.m. And they have classes every single day, Monday through Friday. I'd say just stop by, say hey, and just say, hey, Faith sent me. And they'll be like, okay, great. You want to work out? Like, it'll be awesome.
And for those who are worried, no, they're not going to beat religion and Jesus over your head. It's okay.
They do. No, none of that.
Just, I know someone out there is going to hear it and they're like, no, I'm not going to go. It's Christian. It's faith-based. No, they're not going to beat you over the head with it.
No, I think that when you think about things like that, I think it's just think about like community and think about kindness and if you want to feel welcome, because I think that's with with something that's faith-based, that's kind of where it starts. It comes with the gym, I guess, withholds almost the fruits of the spirit, I guess you'd say. Yep. So, like, come in, try it out, have a good time. The music is great. You may have a little conversation about, is it Drake or is it Kendrick? Like, you might have all sorts of things, but I think it's a great time. And I go in there and I don't always think about, I'm working out. Like, no, I'm going here to see my family. Not that they're just my family, but like, everyone that I meet there, and so many people train there that you never know who you meet there as well.
There you go. I like it. My last question for you is something I didn't know. What kind of athlete were you?
So being that I'm 4'11", I'm tiny. So I ran track, and I played rugby as well.
What?
Yeah, I played a little
Rugby.
bit of rugby, and then I played basketball in high school. Funny enough, right? I was a freshman, and I entered in on the JV team as a
Okay.
point guard. So I
Okay.
guess you could kind of say might be a little quick or whatnot. Um, but yeah, I love sports, and in turn, I think all of that it's made me interested in like CrossFit and things of that sort.
Yeah.
So, um, yeah,
Rugby is not where I thought you were gonna go. I thought you were gonna say like gymnastics. I thought you were gonna
no,
say like I can see track, like, but like rugby, like violent
yeah,
rugby.
yeah. Okay, so my experience with rugby, because I'm short and stout, I was pretty fast. So I never really the getting hit part wasn't fun. I don't think I rarely got hit, but I like to hit others. I thought
Of
that was
course,
a lot of fun, and in
of
turn, like I think
course.
that's probably turned into I box now as well for fun. So
Oh, dope.
it's at come to Steadfast. There's boxing classes. There's
There
all
you
the things.
go.
Mm-hmm.
I like it. She a
Thank you.
boxer. She'll mess you up in some rugby. Don't let her tackle you. Don't let that 4'11" like appearance fool you.
See, you wouldn't know. I've
I
never been
didn't
in a
know.
football.
I've known you and I don't know.
Yeah,
That's wild. But that's dope though.
yeah. Thank
I like
you.
it. I like it.
Hate it.
So let's wrap this thing up, Faith.
Yeah.
Tell the people if they want to support you or if they want to follow you. How do the good people get in contact with you or support you on the gram or wherever you do whatever you do?
Yeah. Instagram, I think Twitter, all the things. The handle is at by Faith Visuals. And then if you're also looking for website, it's www.bythefaithvisuals.com. And so yeah, I think Instagram is the best place to see what I'm about and check out all things faith.
I like it. I like it. Faith, I'm so glad that we did this.
Me
Uh,
too.
I'm so appreciative of you. Like, I'm just appreciative to hear your story and like just no one's really asked me questions, so it was cool. It was different. It was different. Like I had to actually sit and think. Like I'm just usually just used to receiving. I'm like, oh, I'm learning. I'm learning people's stories. But today I
Yeah.
get it was cool. It was different. I love it. I like it.
You. Yeah, and I was learning too, and I think that I'm a genuinely curious person. So I think that's where the questions come from. But I just wanted to thank you for
Yeah,
even thinking of me to come on this podcast.
for
I
sure.
had a lot of fun, and let's do another one.
It was fun. Absolutely. Like let's do it again for real. Like we'll figure out another time and we'll make it happen.
Yeah, let's do it.
I love it. All right, everybody. See y'all next week. Peace.